So, hi, Jackie.
Hi, Nick.
And just want to say upfront, thanks again for agreeing to join me. As I've just kind of said, we've just had a little conversation off camera just to get us started, which I think is always a helpful thing to do. Just speaking about the practicalities of being able to get here on time and setting up and making sure our spaces are nice and clear and all that type of stuff. You know, living in this kind of video world now where we're doing so much remotely, it's just part and
Yes, we
parcel
are.
of what we do. But as you know, on this channel, I'm really about sharing practical tools, tips, and ideas designed to help people win in life. That's really what this is about. And as I've said, one of the things I'm really doing this year in particular, I'm keen to speak to some guests who I believe will offer insights and inspirations to really help my viewers and listeners succeed, to meet that end, helping them to win in life. And with that, I've invited you to be today's guest. and I wanted to do that so we can have a discussion about money and finance. And I know that's your area of expertise and what you specialize in and what you've done for several years. And we'll get into that in just a moment.
Yeah.
But I wanted to speak today with you about money and finance. And the reason for that is because I think that for some reason, for some people, the conversation about money can be an uncomfortable topic. Now, I know in my own experience, and it might be similar for other people as well, money wasn't really discussed in my home, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Nor was how to generate or manage it effectively. It was one of those
Agreed.
kind of topics that was never really discussed. And I'm going to be upfront. Although I know that my parents worked extremely hard to provide for my sister and myself. You know, with my mum on occasions having multiple jobs.
Yeah,
My
mine too.
dad running a business. You
Mm-hmm.
know, which seemed to take all of his hours, if I'm honest. Conversations relating to money were very few and far between. I don't know whether that's part of what you're experiencing.
Exactly the same background, yeah.
But what we do know is that despite money being sometimes a little bit of a taboo subject, it's not something that we can avoid.
No, it's not.
Yeah, especially in the current economic climate where, you know, people are experiencing real financial challenges with rises in cost of living, etc. So Jackie, that's really where I'd like us to go today, to talk about money. Yeah. But before we get into that, I'd love for you to first introduce yourself by answering two questions. And I'm going to say two simple questions, but I want you to
They're not going to
unpack.
be simple, are they?
Well, you know what it's like when someone says easy questions, you're like, okay, what are we waiting for? But two questions to introduce yourself. One, who is Jackie? And two, how do you contribute to the world?
Okay, so number one, who is Jackie? Jackie is a wife, a mother, and a grandmother, all to
Okay.
boys.
Okay. All to
So
boys, did you say?
two grown sons. Well, one's still a teenager, and I also have a grandson as well.
Mm.
Jackie is somebody who's passionate about community.
Mm.
So all things community, helping disadvantaged groups. That's my real passion. I'm also an accountant. So I'm a qualified accountant. Let's do that's the boring stuff. I'm a qualified accountant, qualified teacher, money coach, trainer for QuickBooks. Yeah. But it definitely, as you can tell, all of that is finance related, money related. So that's who Jackie is. What was the second question? How do I
How do
contribute
you
to the world?
contribute to the world?
Yeah, right. Okay. All right. Asking an introvert how she contributes to the world, but I'm a confident introvert. So
I love that. I love that.
my contribution to the world is helping people to manage money and to have conversations about money,
Mm.
to manage their personal finances, and to also manage their business finances, because I'm a believer that once we get that right, we can build our communities and we can help those coming behind us. So that's how I contribute to the world.
That's fantastic. So your contribution to the world is having open, frank, and I love one of your, you know, where I've seen before, you like to make conversations and learning about numbers and money fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. You got to meet people where they're at, right? And
Mm.
so when I first started my business, which was a training company, I called it financial training because it
Yeah,
was geared towards children, youth.
fantastic.
And I wanted to get away from that taboo talking about finance and money and make it fun. And when I
Mm,
ran workshops, that's what I did. I made it
mm,
fun and relatable.
mm.
I've since changed the name because I'm now going for the adults. And so now my company is called Financial Wealth Community because it is about us building wealth, creating generational wealth. So our children, grandchildren are not starting from zero. I'm
Wow.
passionate about that.
Wow. And that's really good, because that's some of what I'd like us to touch on, especially that word you just said there, generational wealth and
Yeah.
wealth, because there is some interesting things in there that I'm pretty sure you're going to be able to share with us. So that's great. So giving back to the community, sharing your knowledge and experience to help businesses, but also just individuals in terms of managing their personal finances so that they can have, I guess, better experiences in their own lives and in their own communities
Absolutely.
themselves. Okay, brilliant. And a mum and a grandmother, etc., and a wife.
Yep.
So that, I'm sure that all
Daughter,
keeps you busy.
sister.
Yeah, all of those things as well.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. So thank you. So I've had an interesting relationship with money and finances over the years, So I'm really, really keen from a personal point of view to hear some of what your thoughts will be. So I want to start by asking you, in light of what you do now,
Yeah.
what would you say, how would you summarize your own personal journey with money and finance?
How long have you got?
want to get a sense of your journey, because I think
Absolutely. No,
your
and I'm
journey is
happy
going
to
to be
share.
key.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I'm
your
happy
journey
to
is
share.
key.
So single parent family growing up.
Mm.
So my background was growing up in the early 70s, where you have one pair of shoes for church and one pair of shoes for school. You came home. Every time you came home, you took off your going out clothes and you put on your house clothes, and images of my mum having the meter. I don't know if you're old enough for that, Nick.
Yes.
The mum having to punch money into the meter in order to pay the bills, and sometimes having to go into there earlier to pay for other things. Seen my mum working 2 and sometimes 3 jobs. So I grew up with a scarcity mindset. As how I knew it was, there was never any money. There was no money, never any money. And then funny enough, it was when I was at college doing a general business studies course, and it had a module on accountancy. And I fell in love with that module. It was like top marks. I'm a bit mathsy anyway, but the accounts, putting things into boxes, were brilliant for me. So hence my career started as an accounts junior, and then I qualified eventually. But what triggered it for me? So part of my journey, my mum went back to Jamaica when I was 17. So I lived with my brother, my older brother. And so I had to go straight to work. So I couldn't go to uni because I had to look after myself, right? So I had to go to work. So I kind of didn't do the uni route to qualify as an accountant, but I did the experience route and then did the getting the qualification. But it was during that journey, when I was managing other people's money, funny enough, I realized that the same principles I was using, I was not using for my own money. So as an early, I mean, I got married at 21. So young, still married, got married at 21. And we all bought our first home together with another family member. And the journey itself taught me so much about money. So I started with negative money. I took a loan out to buy my first Datsun Cherry car. And then defaulted on that loan. Yeah, because I just didn't have enough money, didn't know anything about budgeting, saving, never. It's like the money comes in and you just spend it, right? So that was my journey until, and I can't tell you at what point it was, but it was probably one of the companies I worked for. They weren't managing their money very well. And I came in and sorted it all out and realized, but this is what you're supposed to do for your own personal finances, right? So literally just implemented the budget, which is my favorite word, by the way.
Okay.
The budget.
The budget, yes.
I don't like to use that word, but it is controlling my money, telling my money where to go. I use the same principles for working as an accountant and implemented it into my own personal life. And that's what got me back to where I needed to be, and to now, being able to create generational wealth. I mean, obviously there's a bit in between, but it's been uphill from there, basically. But that's the journey in a nutshell.
So basically, starting with very little understanding of how to actually manage money, how to make money, how to budget, and the importance
how
of
to save,
how to save, all of these things. And, you know, through working for others and helping them to manage their money, following your training, where you fed in, to hear someone say they fell in love with accounts, I was a bit like, whoa.
I know, right?
You fell in love with accounts following a love for maths.
So, well, I wouldn't say a love for maths. I was always quite good at maths.
Good at maths. Okay.
I was good at maths. But the accounting, because people always think if you're good at maths, then you can be good in accounting. It's not quite like that.
Not quite.
But with the accounting, it's more about putting things into boxes. Something has to fit everywhere. I love that, right? I'm quite methodical like that. That's how my brain's wired. So that was the thing that worked for me. So I could use the numbers, but they had to fit somewhere. Right. And then it becomes real then.
Right. Okay. It becomes a reality when something doesn't seem to fit when it should, and how can you make that work in a way that's going to be effective and good for you? Okay. I like that. I like the fact that you said that you took what you were learning from your work and actually recognize, well, this isn't being applied into my own life, and really it should. And it's since you started doing that when things began to change.
And that's how I like to help my clients, because even though I'm an accountant, that's what I do. I mainly work with business startups, so those who have no idea. And you usually find the way they manage their personal finances is the same way they manage the business finances.
Right.
There's a correlation. So I try to get the personal finances going right. In order to help the business to grow, so the business can pay them what they need for their personal life to grow and develop.
Wow. So that would be the direction. That would be the order as well, in terms of personal finances first.
Absolutely. Because you need to know how much your business needs to pay you. Otherwise you just go blindly, right?
I like that. That's a different way of thinking, isn't it? Your business paying for you as opposed to anything different, and making sure that that's working in that way. I like that. Okay. Well, why do you think, Jackie, I'm going to ask this question, why do you think for some people money can be a topic that is hard to speak about?
And so it's a number of reasons, I think, and a lot of it does come down to your experiences. I said about my experience. And so for me, perhaps with my mum, it might have been, maybe she felt ashamed because she didn't have enough. So, you know, we never had the conversations, or maybe it's because she also just felt, I think it's a generational thing where she also would not have been taught about money and how to manage money, because my grandmother, who lived in Jamaica, was a hustler, right? So businesswoman, we call it now. But you know, selling the crop of the land and going to sell it down into the town and stuff like that, which is business, but they just wouldn't have called it business. But she probably wouldn't have had time. My mum's one of 11, so she probably wouldn't even have had time to sit down and have those conversations. And so it's learned behavior, I think. I mean, you know, I'm not a counselor or psychotherapist or anything, but I have picked this up throughout my experience. So a lot of it is learned behavior. So if it was never talked about, then it becomes something, like you said, that is taboo, right? A little bit like sex, right? People don't really talk about it, so then it's like taboo, right? But really, you know, that's how children are born. So come on, let's just get over it, right? Same with money. We all have to use it. So let's get over it. But I also think, so if people's had a bad experience with money, so sometimes I talk about having a relationship with money and what does money mean to you? And I think a lot of people put too much emphasis on this thing called money, right? Where it's literally something that just flows, right? It's a way to trade. It's something that flows in, it flows out. I've got a service, I provide it to you, you have a service, and it's an exchange of services or products, right? So let's get rid of this whole heavy weighted thing of what money is. But I think a lot of people haven't grasped that. So it's this thing that I can't have, or if I do have it, I'm not in control of how it goes. And so it's a lot of things. It's fear, learned behavior, embarrassment. So if people have defaulted or, you know, had to become bankrupt or whatever, then it's embarrassment. You don't want people to know that. But I think, and also just to touch on this a little bit, this is a bit deeper here, but I think, especially for my community, which is the Caribbean community, and most people around me, and it's not everyone, so I'm generalizing, but a lot of it does also come from slavery. So from starting with nothing, right? So being, you know, slavery was abolished, but then like my great-great-grandfather, because I've done a bit of my history, he would have left with nothing and have to just, whatever the land produced, use that to start, right? And that's not so many generations ago. And sometimes I think people don't give allowances for that. Yes, we need to learn and move on, but how do you do that without help?
That's right.
Right. So yeah, lots of reasons.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. But in there, what I'm hearing you say is a key word there for me was relationship with money. And when you're talking about relationships, you're also talking in that context about emotions, you know, and some of what you spoke about are not just about emotions. You talk about shame, you spoke about embarrassment, you spoke about fear. Those are all emotions.
Real emotions, yeah.
Yeah, and you also spoke about learned behavior. In other words, what's been modeled previously. And that whole thing around the relationship with money is probably a piece that I know for myself has been something I was probably quite naive to, you know, just thinking about, oh, well, what's been modeled to me? You know, what have I heard? What have I seen from different places? You know, whether that's the music I listen to, conversations I hear, what's not ever being spoken about? Why is that not ever being spoken about? What you learn or do not learn in school.
At school or not learned at school.
Exactly. And I think as time's gone on, that's probably been a big one for me that I've noticed, that actually in the educational system, I don't really recall any of that at any kind of depth being taught in a way that I feel would be meaningful and relevant to life now, if that makes sense, as an adult.
Absolutely.
So those things are all really key, aren't they? So this piece about relationship then, that then takes me to mindset. Yeah, that then takes me to, you know, a mindset or psychology of money. You know, what can you tell us about, you know, the mindset or psychology of money in view of what you've just shared?
So again, so it's not my area. It's probably more, I'm not a counselor or psychotherapist, but however, I have done some research around that. And so, I mean, one of the ones that I mentioned, which is what I suffered with, is a scarcity mindset, right? So where you just never think there's enough or there's never going to be enough. And that can manifest itself in either you hoard onto it because you think you're never going to have any more. So even when you've got it, you're still afraid or anxious about it, or you just spend it because you don't think that it's worth you having it anyway. So it can manifest itself in different ways. But habitudes is a good one. There's I can't remember the lady's name, but there's a lady who's got a website. I think if you type in habitudes in Google, it comes up, and she's done some cards, some different cards that you can use to see what type of spender you are.
Right. Okay. Habitudes.
Habitude, as in habit.
Habits. Okay, right. Yeah, we'll put a link to that in the description.
Yeah,
it might be helpful.
Because why it's good is because you can read through these cards and it can tell you what type of person you are, spender, and you can recognize yourself in some of those. So some people like if you're very giving and you like to help people, you're always giving people money, even when you may not have it, right? The other one is like, so I'm like, people shop for comfort. Yes, you have comfort eaters, but you have people who shop for comfort. Which is not
I can
really
relate to that every now and again.
Right, okay. Not really me. I'm more of the comfort eater, unfortunately. But yeah. So she's got, I can't remember, I think it's about 6 or 7 different types. And when you read through those, you get to see more about yourself. Once you do that, you get to understand your behaviors and your patterns, right? And your habits, right? So you get to understand that. When you understand that, you can change it. And why I've realized in the past, maybe just the past 2 or 3 years, how important mindset is. Because I used to work with people individually, because I'm the one who wants to help people as well. So I would help people for free, like do some personal financial management with them. And it's fine, you know, it's like, I'll help you. And then I'd get really frustrated because they just wouldn't do like what I thought was simple, because I'm a practical person, very practical. Here's your budget, let's work it out. This is what you need to do, sorted, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't realize the importance of the mindset. So they weren't getting anywhere and I just couldn't understand it. I got so frustrated that I literally was like, I can't help these people. Until I was actually running like a membership group a couple of years ago to help people with, like, I had this course, it's called 7 Steps to Being Financially Healthy. And the first step was mindset. And I've got a good friend who's a life coach, and I got her to run some sessions for me because it wasn't my area, about habits in general, but then relating it to money and finances. And it's then that I realized how important. It doesn't matter. You can tell people what to do, but if it's not right up here, it's not going to happen. And so now I'm realizing, and I'm like, yeah, you might need to do some coaching, Jackie, around this, because you could help your clients have much more breakthrough. You know, if I understand it, then obviously I can help them understand what's going on. So yeah, really, really important.
Yeah. Wow.
Which you would know, right? Being what you do. So
well, I think partly because of my own journey, actually, you
yeah.
know, I can relate to, you know, to certainly to some of what you've said there in terms of, you know, the scarcity mindset, this idea of just holding on to through fear of not having it again.
Yeah.
You know?
Or just spending it as it comes in, just spending it without having any type of control over it as well. So it's quite very interesting. Yeah. It's an interesting one, but one that I like to tackle because I'm like that.
So I mean,
a lot of people don't think about it. Sorry, a lot of people don't think about it, do they? You don't necessarily go into the shop and think, now, why am I buying this? What is my mindset saying about, you know? But because of our habits, or as we said before, our learned behavior, then we're on auto, or we just automatically do what we've always done.
Yeah.
And wonder why things haven't changed.
Yeah. And it can just become almost like a vicious cycle as well. Can't it? You know, especially when you throw in things like the shame and guilt. You know, if you then spend and you feel guilty or ashamed for spending, then spend to help yourself feel better.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And education as well, because some people, I mean, I'm throwing off budget. Not everyone knows how to prepare a budget or a budget that works for them. Right. It's personal to you. It's not for everybody else. So sometimes you say these things and think, yeah, everyone should know that, but they don't necessarily know.
Yeah, it's very true. It's very true. So part of the educational piece and process for you is about helping people to, well, first and foremost, not assuming that people know. And introducing them to some of the, in a sense, the fundamentals, some of the basics that will help kind of set them off on the right footing.
Absolutely.
And that'd be great. I think maybe towards the end, it would be good just to get an idea from you in terms of what some practical steps to start generating and managing money could be. But we can maybe look at that towards the end, just to plant that seed for you from now, because I think that could be helpful for some people, just to get them started, maybe.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Well, another thing for me that I've sometimes heard batted around when it comes to when people seem to have things. You'll hear people use terms like rich, wealthy. And I kind of get a sense these terms are used interchangeably to describe the same thing. This is your area, so I'm not certain, but I'm not convinced that being rich and being wealthy are the same thing. Is there a difference in your experience and what you do?
In my experience, and this is my I mean, I don't know what the dictionary says about it, because you're right, people do use it interchangeably. But for me, rich is cash rich. So money, you've got money, you've got an income, you maybe earn a really high wage or whatever. Wealth to me is more substance, right? So wealth to me is more, it can be cash as well, investments, but it's also your network.
Right.
And I always use this example when I try to explain it to people. So, and not to take away from people who don't have, but if I look at people who are homeless, for example,
mm.
and I'm blessed that I know quite a few people, and I have a big family, like cousins and aunts, where I know, because of how I've lived my life, I know that if I lost everything, I could probably survive for a year by kipping on people's sofas, right? I have enough people within my community that I think would not say, no, you can't stay on my sofa for a night. To me, that's wealth.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Right? Because some people don't have that.
Yeah.
Some people don't have that community or, you know, somebody to go to. So for me, it's not just cash. It's not just monetary. It's your network.
Wow. That's
why I go for wealth rather than riches.
Yeah, I like that. So cash is about, yes, you might have a really good income.
Mm-hmm.
You might have lots of cash, disposable income. You might have stuff in the bank. You might even have some assets, I guess.
Yeah.
But if everything went to pot, you might actually struggle, because what you're missing, I like the word you said, substance. Wealth being about substance, going a little bit deeper, actually having a community or a network that,
because you can build again if you've got a community.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you can't. I mean, you can lose all your riches and then you may have to get another job and you've got to build again, but that's it depending on how you if it's an illness or something like that and you lose it and you can't earn anymore. If you don't have that sense of community or network of people, it's harder to build than if you have that, right?
And it's interesting because I guess that could also be at the start of your journey, which is, you know, we'll often hear, you know, I think it's one of those individuals that have been significant motivational speakers over the years that speak about your net worth is your network is your net worth. That type of phrase. So I think I've said that right.
But
that's kind of what you're talking about there as well.
Yeah, definitely. It is, because, and it's funny because I don't hear people talking about use the word rich as much as they do wealth now. And like you said, I hear some people talk about wealthy, and for some people it has a negative feeling because they think it's just riches. People's just accumulating for the sake of accumulating, as opposed to, for me, wealth, accumulating to build, right? And within that building, you're building to help others. That's big for me, right?
Yeah.
So you can be rich and accumulate because you want the Jaguar, or I don't know what the latest cars are, but you know, whatever, because you want the top cars, right? Or you can be wealthy because you are creating generational wealth for the next generation, but not just that, because you're building a business where now you can employ people from your own community, right? So you can help those less fortunate than you are. So that's how I define it. I'm not saying that's how everyone else defines it, but and I'm happy with my definition.
Yeah. Well, I love that link between network, community, generational wealth, which I do want us to touch on as well, and how that has largely shapes the way you do business and the way you manage and teach others to manage and basically build wealth for themselves. Okay, that's cool. All right, so I think I've also heard someone say that wealth is about being able to choose whether or not you're working or not, whereas being rich, you'd still need to work, because although you might have significant income, your expenditure,
you have to maintain that lifestyle, right?
Maintain it. So you, in a sense, you might have lots of cash flow coming in, and you might have a good job or good income, but you have to keep that going in order to maintain the lifestyle that you've created for yourself. Whereas for somebody who's wealthy, they would have the option of not working if they could. Well, like you said, actually, what you were saying in terms of just you would have, you know, everything went pear-shaped.
Yeah.
You know that you'd have a period of time in which you'd be able to start again.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
Does that make sense? And what's your thoughts on that in terms of the difference in terms of?
So again, like what you're with the riches, as you're saying, you're having to maintain that lifestyle constantly. Whereas with wealth, if you've created investments, okay, and people use the word passive, Not every investment is really passive. There's usually something you have to do, but you're not having to constantly work on that income stream, say, for example. Like if you say, let's use property as that's a good example.
If
you invest in property, for example, and you may have tenants, you're always going to have some work to do, but on the whole, while you're sleeping, that money's still coming in, right? Or stocks and shares, whatever. So that's the idea. That's I think what people are alluding to when they're talking about with the wealth. You're sleeping or you're on the beach and you're still making money, right? Because your money is compounding, so you're getting more and more and more for doing nothing.
Although
exactly that.
Although you have done something because you've had
you have to do something, and you still always have to do a little bit of something, but instead of like, you don't necessarily have to do a 9 to 5 anymore, right? So you don't have to work Monday to Friday. You can work, maybe just working on Mondays is enough, and then you can take the rest of the week off. It's a lifestyle change, right?
And that's the piece there, isn't it? It's a lifestyle change. I guess it's having the option to know that if you wanted to, for example, go away for a month and I don't know, travel to the Caribbean or travel to somewhere in Europe or travel to somewhere in Africa and actually give your time voluntarily to passion project, you can do it, not having to worry about, I don't know,
if the bills are still being paid at home. Absolutely that. And I think that's what a lot of people strive for. That's what most of us want, to be able to have more time to do the things that we really want to do. And it's a bit like me, right? And I don't mind saying it. So it's a bit like I tried to do the personal financial management. I tried to make that my 9 to 5 and it didn't work. Because the people I'm trying to help can't pay for it, right? Let's be honest. So then you have to go through funding and stuff like that. That's another story for another time. Okay, been there, done that. So what am I good at? What am I skilled at? Which is the accounting, right? Which I can still use. I still get passion from it. Okay, not the compliance bit, which I have to do, but from the day-to-day consultancy stuff with the clients. But if I build that up, okay, which is what I'm doing, then it means I can have more time to do the bits that I love to do, the passion, the personal finance. And it doesn't matter if I get paid for it, right? Because this arm is paying for me. So
it's I guess it's that whole idea of, if there are a group of individuals who you can add value to and serve with your offerings and your products and your services, who have the disposable income, recognize the value of what you offer, and they can actually pay you for that time, that expertise, you are then positioned to be able to offer your expertise and your time to others who are in a less fortunate position to be able to pay for those
community building, Nick.
Absolutely.
Community building. That's how it works.
That's really good. That's really good. It's really good. All right, so I think there's another thing, and just in terms of, well, actually, before I said, is there anything else on that whole riches wealth thing that you think springs to mind that you think that might be helpful just to touch on?
No, because I don't think people should focus on it too much. I think we need to, let's build from the ground up. There's a lot of noise out there at the moment, which is probably why I'm saying this, earn 6 figures, build a 6-figure business, and I'm just like, but if you can't manage the 3 figures, you're going to get the 6 and lose it, right? So let's manage the 3 and the 4 figures and the 5 figures, and let's build steps.
I like that. I like that as a principle, actually. As a principle. Even early this week, actually, I was having a conversation with somebody and just having this discussion about, and you'll understand this principle. If you find it hard to manage money when you're earning £10 a week, unless you learn the behaviors and the habits and the disciplines with that £10 a week, if you started getting £1,000 a week, it's still going to be the same.
Absolutely.
It makes no difference how much it is. It's going to be exactly the same, which is why I guess we see individuals, and there are celebrities,
artists.
They
make so much
and they lose it.
And they lose it all because they haven't learned the principles of managing the little, or they've trusted other people to do it for them, because that happens as well. But So I'm not going to say any more on that.
No, that's good. I think that's a really good principle to remember. right, so I would like us again to when we before we finish to look at the link between, you know, how to start the process of,
Yeah,
like you said,
absolutely.
building blocks to get to generational wealth and managing that. But what are your thoughts on just, you know, just touching it a little bit in terms of the impact of finances potentially on well-being? From what you've seen in terms of those you've worked with. Now, when, you know, I know you said it a couple of times, you're not a psychiatrist. That doesn't matter. I know
I
from
have
your
practical
experience,
experience of that though as well, right?
from
So
your experience, you would have seen
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
You're hearing people's
absolutely.
stories.
And it's yeah, it's a huge one because
Mm.
I've worked in like community centres, I've taught in community centres,
Mm.
and I was there to teach IT, but I always use it for finances. So when I'm teaching Excel, I talk about finances because I always got to get that in there.
You've got to get it in there.
Got to get it in there. But it breaks my heart because there is people who have mental issues. Like, for just giving an example, there was a couple of guys who'd come from Syria, from war, or a lady who's got a long-term illness or who had cancer, lost all her money. I mean, I've done workshops for DV ladies who's gone from DV, and you see the mental struggle to pick up and start again. But while you're picking up and starting again with all the mess that's around you, you still have to deal with finances, right? You still have to deal with paying your bills and stuff like that. And even myself, at one stage, I was diagnosed with an illness and I couldn't work for 6 months.
Wow.
But because I had property,
Mm.
I could draw down. So it wasn't that detrimental to me because I'd already set up one of my building blocks, right? Whereas I was trying to imagine if that wasn't the case, because it adds extra stress to you. And then again comes the shame, the fear, or the burying your head in the sand because you don't want anyone to know what's going on. And the impact, I mean, I don't know the numbers now, but I know back about 3 years ago, that was the biggest cause, I think, for men to commit suicide, was finances, debt, basically, where they would hide it from their partners or whatever. So it's huge. It's huge.
Yeah. I mean, it still remains, I can't remember the exact percentage, but it still remains true that men, I think, you know, I think it's around the age of 40, 45 upwards, there's a bracket, you know, continue to be the demographic, the highest rate of suicide, you know, ending their life by suicide. And yeah, you do ask yourself the question, what could be behind that? And part of that might well be the stresses that come with financial responsibility, you know. And like you said, the shame that's associated with that, with, you know, being able to be a provider, you know, and
huge for men, huge. And social media, we've seen what looks like everyone else has got it together, right? And you feel, why am I not there, right? Not really knowing that the people may not have it together that are showing up. But
absolutely, they're just maybe hiring something or literally going into a car park and borrowing someone else's car.
Absolutely,
all those types of things. but you mentioned as well, obviously, you know, for women as well, you know, because I think there are many, you know, there are many lone parents, single parents out there, you know, and as you spoke, you know, you said you yourself, that was your experience growing up, and you know, I just think, you know, the challenges that must be in place for single women, you know, that are raising families. I mean, what would you say to them, Jackie?
I would say to them, I would probably take them through, I would say to them, find somebody that you trust. And if you can't find somebody that you trust, if there's no one, in your network that you trust to have conversations with or to help you, okay, then go to a professional. There's plenty organizations, free organizations out there now that can really help. I mean, I kind of mentioned I'm a money coach for CAP, which is Christians Against Poverty, for my local church, and it's free. It's all free. You don't even have to be a Christian or anything to access it, but it's free. And if you've got a whole debt, they've got a whole debt department that you can go to anonymously. Do you know what I mean? So there is so much help out there now, but it starts with, some people don't want to do it on their own, and it's time. Like if you're a single parent, like looking at my mum's situation, working 3 jobs and a home, there was 3 of us as children. When she does sit down, it's literally to exhale.
Of course.
It's literally to exhale, and then it's to go to bed and start again, right? So, but my thing is, if you don't do it, even if you take one day, even if you just say, right, then this particular day, I'm going to deal with it. And you set up, it doesn't need to be more than a day. And you set up your budget, because the starting point, which is leading on to what you wanted me to do.
Yeah.
I may as well do it now.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Starting point is knowing
steps.
what you have, right? Knowing what you have. So looking at what's coming in. I use spreadsheets. You don't have to use a spreadsheet. Some people use apps. The banks help a lot now, but pen and paper. Just start with pen and paper. Write down what's coming in a particular period. So if you get paid monthly, or if you get benefits monthly, and what your bills are going out, then take the expenses away from what's coming in and see what that figure is, because that's your starting point.
Right.
Because if that's in negative and you continue down that path, you're going to go deeper into debt. If it's not negative, you may actually have some skills and talents that you're not utilizing, and it's about thinking outside of the box. I talk about this all the time. You know, if you're a parent, could you pick up somebody else's child from school and get paid for that, right? That can help, right? Or you know, I have a neighbor who did that. She worked full time, and her son, even though he was a teenager, she didn't want him coming home on his own. So he'd go to a friend's house, and this parent would cook for him. And then she'd pick him up from the parent's house. And I think she pays something like £15 a day. That's £75 a week, £300 a month.
Yeah.
But doing nothing extra, because she cooked anyway.
She's already doing it. Yeah.
But it was peace of mind for the parent whose son had somewhere to go.
Yeah.
So that's money, right? An exchange of services. And that's how you can increase your income. So, I mean, there's lots of different ways you can do that. So there's that, I would say, but the first thing is to know what that figure is, because for a lot of people, I've done this example with so many people, they've had more on paper than they should have.
Oh, wow.
And the reason is because they're just spending, right?
Yeah.
They're not controlling it. They don't know, right? So it's like, and I get people to also do this thing where track your expenses for a month, just for a month. Every time you're going to a shop, write down or get the receipt, add up what you spend, because what you think you spend and maybe what you do spend could be two completely different things. That's where your money's going. So that's the first step, right? And then once you know what that figure is, you can then make a decision as to how you're going to, if you need to increase it, or how you're going to better manage your money, because it's about not restrictions, but you controlling where you spend it.
Yeah. And you've said, and you used that before in terms of actually you controlling your money rather than controlling you.
Yeah, because when I say budget, a lot of people think, oh, it means I can't do this or I can't do that, right? So no, it just means you're controlling it. I'm not telling you where you should spend it, right? It's not my job to tell you that. However, you make the decision based on what you see. Because a lot of people say, oh yeah, I know how much I've got coming. I know what I spend. But you need to write it down, because that's when you really know.
Yeah. And that's, I guess, at the point, once you know what that figure is, and you're starting to think outside the box in terms of, okay, what could you do first and foremost, maybe to bring in more, you could also then be thinking about, okay, well, what could you be doing to reduce that? And one of those things might be when you're actually just monitoring
too many coffees, or
exactly.
Or let me do a weekly shop instead of a daily shop. Or if it is that you can't, because for some people it's very real, right? That figures don't match up and they've got no more time, they can't do anything else, right? So then at that point, you need to have a conversation with your creditors. And if you can't do it, then you go to somebody like a close friend who maybe will call them for you, or you go to a debt free, no paid one, because there's some paid ones out there. You go to a free debt agency, they will contact your creditors for you and at least come up with a plan where you're not overdoing it.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. So find someone you trust.
Yeah.
If there's not anyone you trust, or someone you trust but maybe they're not good with finances either, you go to someone professional.
It's not that they even have to be good with finances, right? It's just someone who's willing to call your creditors on your behalf.
Right. Okay.
Because for some people, they just don't want to make the phone calls. Some people don't open the envelopes, right? They know it, you know, the old brown envelopes, right? So if you just need someone to sit with you and open it with you, and if you need to cry, you cry, you know, whatever, right? But that's what I mean about having someone who can keep you accountable, but someone you trust. You don't want someone who's going to run and tell everybody
No,
everything
tell
going
everyone your
on.
business and that.
Exactly.
And then there are organizations you mentioned, CAP, Christians Against
Yeah, CAP.
Poverty.
I think I'm going to say CAP because I think I've done their workshops and I think they're amazing. They're
Yes,
really, really good. The
yes.
practical help that they give you is really, really good. But there's
Okay.
other ones. There's the National Debt Agency.
Mm.
They also can give you information and help you,
Yeah,
but just don't pay for it because you don't want
yeah,
to.
yeah. And I think that's key,
Don't
isn't
need
it?
to.
It's key. Make sure they're free. But yeah, we'll put a link to those in the description so that
Yeah.
people can actually link to those as well. Because actually, yeah, like you said, they're really helpful resources which people can utilize if they need to. So that's
And for those, and for sorry, just to say, so for those of you, because it's not all doom and gloom, who have, right, and you're looking at the end of the month, you're like, whoa, I got £500 every month, whatever. What are you going to do with it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then that's where you get into the letting the money work for you, investing area.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And what would you? So you've touched on the one end in terms of if you've got little left after you've taken away
Or nothing left.
or nothing left.
Yeah.
What about if you are in that situation? Where would you start in terms of generating? Where would
So
you?
again, and so all of that again, mindset, right? It depends on how risk averse you are, right? So what risk do you want to take and what effect will those risks have on you as to what you do? I mean, for some people, it'd be a simple ISA, right? Or the lifetime ISA, or there's a good one, I think it's called Proud Property. Their interest rates tends to be better and it's all FCA regulated. Just if you want to just make like a type of savings investment.
Okay.
Then you've got the stocks and shares. Stocks and shares is a huge one, okay, because there's so many cowboys out there. I'm going to just say, right? There's so many cowboys out there. So you want to get someone again who's regulated. Like I've got a really good friend who she works in her 9 to 5 is in that industry. She also does a bit of what I do with the personal finance, but she's big on stocks and shares.
Okay.
And so, yeah, and she says you can start with as little as £50. So, and then property, I know people in property, again, that I would trust and I could recommend and say, go to this person, maybe sit their course. So go to people who you've heard other people have used maybe and had a good experience, because as you know, with everything, there's some not so nice people out there.
And also, like you said, you know, for most of us, time is time. Funny we're speaking about commodity. Time is our most valuable commodity, isn't it? You know, so you know, you want to be able to go to the right people
and get the knowledge, get the right knowledge.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant, Jackie. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else you want to add? Because I'm gonna wrap us up, because I think you've covered quite a lot, and which has been brilliant, really good.
I mean, for me, it is, I just can't say it enough. Think about your relationship with money. Think about how you spend your money and why you do what you do. That's probably really the first step. But then be practical and get your budget done, but also have a financial plan. Plan to fail to plan, right? So if you want to achieve certain things in your life, then you need to plan for it, and that includes having a financial plan. And in that financial plan is your estate planning as well.
Okay.
Huge.
Estate plan. Say more
about my 7
plan.
steps now. It's like planning for what happens after you're no longer here. Once you've dealt with it, you don't have to think about it again, because for a lot of people it's like, right, it's a bit, but once you've dealt with it, you don't have to think about it again, and you owe it. If you have children, nieces, or whoever, you owe it to those that you're leaving behind to make sure that it goes, your hard work goes where you want it to go.
That's and again, that's something that a lot of people may just not be considering, may not even be thinking about.
And insurance, right? So gosh, I'm trying to keep it.
No, it's fine, Jackie. This is good.
Insurance, we're talking about investments. That's one I mentioned, because I am tired of seeing, I mean, I did mentoring for over 6 years with a charity, mentoring youth, and I'm tired of seeing the crowdfunding for funerals for our children, right?
Wow.
I'm tired of it, because we can take out insurance, and for the younger you are, I mean, it might be £9-10 a month, right? But insurance is also a good investment. So like, for example, I've got life insurance, my husband's got life insurance. I mean, my kids, right, we're worth more to our kids dead than we are.
I hope you don't say that too loud, you know.
That's right, they love me, I think. Right. But in all honesty, just taking out insurance is a way of creating generational wealth. Right. So when you're not here, they don't have to panic about how they're going to pay for certain things because you've left something for them.
Yeah.
And that's important.
Yeah, that's really good. I've got a good friend, and when his father passed away a few years ago, and I remember just spending some time with him in conversation, you know, and one of the things I remember is it's actually stuck with me. He said one of the things he really appreciated, you know, following the passing of his dad, was that his dad left things in order. Yeah, there was nothing that wasn't in order. Paperwork, insurances, arrangements, everything was in order, because when you think about it, you know, it's obviously going to be painful enough
absolutely
to lose a loved one, but then to have to think about the administrative stresses that come with that, and obviously then get family dynamics and all that type of stuff. So he said he was really, really grateful to his dad for the fact that he had things.
And I've done it, and I've even encouraged my son to do it, because he's now got a young one. It's just, like I said, once you've done it, that's it, you've done it. Yeah, just done it. Might have to review it in 3, 4, 5 years time, but you've done it. Okay, so definitely. But yeah, get yourself information, get yourself help, because there's always ways to overcome what could look like a really bad situation. Yeah. And that's for those of you that have, enjoy it, but enjoy it well.
Yes.
Let's not end on a negative note.
Yeah, exactly. Because actually you can actually really, well, like you said earlier, you know, there can be a significant lifestyle change if you start to make some of those decisions.
Lives with what you have.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that's
have an impact, to make your contribution to the world.
Absolutely.
And enjoy it for yourself at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Jackie, so you've shared so much which has been valuable. Thank you so much. I'm aware that there will be people watching or listening that would like to actually know more about what you do. So why don't you say something about where people can find you and how they can get in touch?
Yeah, sure. So my main social media is Instagram. I have a handle at F for Foxtrot, WCOMM, so that's for Financial Wealth Community. So FWCOMM. That's my handle for Instagram. I do share from time to time. I've been a bit naughty and haven't shared for a while, but definitely getting back on there. LinkedIn, Jackie Stewart on LinkedIn. And if people just want to find out more about stuff that I do, whatever, they can send me an email, and my email is jstewart, STEWART, at fwcommunity.co.uk.
Brilliant. And what we'll do off this call as well is I'll get all those details from you, and I'll put those in the description, so you know, so people can really get hold of you quickly when they need to. Yeah,
no problem.
So one closing question for you. Here's a curveball. Okay, ready? If you weren't doing what you do and could choose to be doing anything else, what would it be, Jackie?
I don't know. That's really hard, Vic. Career-wise, I could have told you. If I wasn't going to be in accountancy, I would have been into IT.
Okay.
But I probably would be, I would have my own school or something, just something around education, but it would definitely still be something to do with disadvantaged groups and community.
Great.
I don't know what it would be, but it would be something just helping them somehow. Yeah.
Fantastic, Jackie. Thanks.
Oh, but doing it from the beach. Sorry, I forgot to say that.
But doing it from the beach. I love that.
Doing it from the beach.
I love that. But Jackie, thanks so much for joining me and sharing your insights. All the details of our conversation, like I said, including your details and any references, which I'll confirm with you afterwards as well. I'll include those in the kind of show details. And, you know, I just want to say thanks to everybody who's watched or listened in. You know, I really hope that you found some value in our conversation, which I've no doubt you would have done. If you did, please like and share, as this will help us to reach more people with valuable insights and inspiration from people like Jackie Stewart. Until next time.
Thanks for having me.
Nah, you're welcome. Thank you. Until next time, guys, rooting for you. Be well.